Screams in the wreckage. The sound didn't belong in the desert. Jack Renner froze halfway through tightening a fuel regulator on a junked-out survey rover when he heard it, a high-pitched, shuddering wail that bounced off the sandstone cliffs, like a siren ripped out of a nightmare. He stood up, dropping the wrench into the sand, and scanned the horizon. Wind tugged at his jacket, carrying dust and heat, but not much else. Then he heard it again, closer this time. Not human, but not animal either, and definitely not from Earth. Jack grabbed his binoculars from the toolbox, scrambled up the metal ramp onto the roof of his garage, and peered across the sun-baked stretch of Mojave wasteland. Something shimmered in the distance, black smoke twisting like a snake from behind a ridge. "Hell no," he muttered. He jumped off the roof, ran into the garage, and flung open a crate under his workbench. Inside, a long-forgotten emergency radio, a worn-out medkit, and an old government-issued flare gun. He snatched all three, threw them in a bag, and jumped into his rusted-out Jeep. The drive took 10 minutes. He kept his eyes on the rising smoke, zigzagging over dried riverbeds and broken terrain until he crested the ridge and stopped cold. There, half buried in red sand, was the wreckage of something not built by human hands, sleek, metallic, scorched. Its body was a broken teardrop, shape split down the middle with vents still hissing. Shattered panels scattered in every direction like fallen feathers. Jack left the engine running and stepped out cautiously, heart pounding. Another sound, a scream, closer, roar, a voice maybe, coming from inside the wreck. He didn't hesitate. Climbing over the debris, Jack reached a partially open hatch and braced himself. Whatever was in there might not want his help. It might not even be safe to help it. He pried the hatch wider with a crowbar. Steam hissed out, and something shifted inside. A shape curled beneath fallen beams and glowing wires, and then he saw her, half buried beneath the rubble. A young alien, female maybe, lay crumpled and bleeding. Her skin shimmered like pearl and obsidian with veins that glowed faintly blue. One of her arms was completely gone. The other hung by strands of sinew, and one of her legs wasn't there at all. Her eyes snapped open, large and haunting. When she saw him, she screamed, a shriek that shook him to the core. No, hey, I'm not going to hurt you." Jack raised his hands slowly, stepping forward. "It's okay, I'm here to help." She dragged herself backward with her one good limb trembling. Her face was full of raw terror. Her mouth opened and then closed. She didn't understand him. Jack dropped to his knees. "Look, I don't know who you are or what you are, but you're dying. I can't just leave you." "Here," she looked at him like a cornered animal. Then almost imperceptibly, she stopped moving. Jack acted. He gently worked around the metal beams, cleared the rubble, and wrapped her body in the emergency blanket from his bag. Blood, deep purple, oozed through the material. Her breathing was shallow. "I've got you," he whispered, lifting her into his arms. "You're gonna make it." He staggered back to the Jeep and laid her in the back seat as gently as he could, wincing as she moaned in pain. Then he slammed the door and floored it back toward the garage. As he drove, his mind raced. Why here? Why now? And how was she even alive after a crash like that? She twitched in the seat, lips trembling, eyes blinking rapidly. Then she muttered something, a guttural, melodic word Jack couldn't understand. "What? Say that again?" he asked. But she was fading. Her head rolled to the side, and her eyes fluttered shut. Jack gritted his teeth and drove faster. By the time they got back, the sun was low and the shadows long. Jack carried her into his workshop and laid her on the cleanest surface he had, his workbench. The moment he turned to grab the medkit, his garage lights flickered. Then a low rumble from the sky. Jack ran outside and looked up. 2 military helicopters hovered far in the distance, scanning the desert. Not rescue birds, not search and rescue hunters. He backed inside and shut the doors, then locked them. Back at the workbench, she stirred again. Her skin had turned a paler shade, and the glow In her veins dimmed. He opened the medkit and worked quickly, wrapping gauze, applying burn gel, cleaning wounds. She flinched at first but didn't fight him. "Hang in there, girl," Jack said, voice low. "You're not dying today." Then his eyes landed on her missing limbs, and a thought began to take shape. A crazy thought, back in the corner of his garage, under a dusty tarp, was the old exosuit prototype he'd built 5 years ago for a project that never got funding. He looked at her, looked at the suit, looked back. No one else was going to save her. So maybe he would. He stood up, pulled the tarp off the exosuit frame, and powered up the diagnostic pad. Behind him, the alien girl lay unconscious, half machine, half broken, and for the first time in 5 years, Jack Renner felt something awaken in his chest. Purpose, blueprints, and barriers. The red dot vanished a split second before the garage lights cut out completely. Jack dropped the welding, torch and dove to the floor, instinct guiding him more than thought. Somewhere outside, a vehicle engine rumbled, low, methodical, not military, not local police, something else. He crawled over to the workbench and peeked through the lower window slats. Black van, no plates. Someone stepped out, tall, wrapped. In desert gear, visor pulled low. They moved without hesitation, like they knew what they were walking into. Jack's mind spun. He wasn't just dealing with a crash survivor. He was sitting on something bigger, something that had people already tracking her. He reached under the bench, grabbed the old pulse pistol from his prototype testing days, and flicked the safety off. Then he looked at the alien girl lying still beside him. Her chest rose and fell, faint but steady. He made a choice. Jack scooped her up gently, keeping the blanket wrapped tight, and bolted toward the hidden hatch in the floor. The van's side door slammed just as he yanked the panel open and dropped down into the sub-basement. Above him, boots crunched on gravel. Jack moved fast. The basement had been carved out when he was still dreaming of building a desert lab. Now it would serve as a panic room. He sealed the hatch above and moved her onto the backup table, activating low-power lamps. Then he froze. The lights flickered again. Not from power failure. This time it came from her. The girl's veins pulsed with a sudden surge of blue light. Her head rolled sideways. She murmured something, barely audible. Jack leaned closer. "Hey, you awake?" Her eyes fluttered open. One was deep black, the other silver, swirling faintly. "I remember," she whispered, voice strained, heavy with an accent. "Metal man." Jack blinked. "You can talk." She struggled to sit up, gasping in pain. Jack helped her gently. Her skin was fever-hot, and the glow in her veins pulsed again, brighter this time. "You're not safe," she said. "They come. They take. They erase." "Who? The people in the van?" She nodded faintly, then grimaced as she clutched her side. "They found the beacon." "Beacon?" Her hand moved toward her chest, beneath the fabric. Jack hesitated, then carefully pulled the edge down. There, embedded in her skin just beneath the collarbone, was a faintly humming crystal, fractured but still active. She winced. "Help." "Remove." Jack swallowed. "I don't exactly have alien surgical tools lying around." "You have machines," she murmured. "Builder's hands." Jack stared at her. "You mean me?" "You fix, you make. Like my people once did." He shook his head. "I'm just a mechanic. A half-broke, garage rat, ex-defense contractor dropout. I'm nobody." But she wasn't listening. She had passed out again. Jack leaned back, sweat on his forehead. He knew one thing. He needed to move fast. He glanced over at the exosuit frame. Old military-grade components, reinforced joints, adaptive servo systems. It wasn't meant for aliens, but it was better than nothing. Then his eyes shifted to the drawer under the bench. Inside were sketches, blueprints, his old cybernetic limb designs. Abandoned years ago after funding dried up. Maybe it was fate. He got to work. 3 hours passed. Outside, the van disappeared, but Jack didn't trust it. Underground, He worked by dim light, powered by adrenaline and gut instinct. First, he designed a stabilizing rig for her shattered shoulder joint. The synthetic nerves had to translate electrical pulses to her biology. He custom-fit a hydraulic arm and mapped the connections. Each movement was a gamble. Then came the leg, built from a salvaged rover leg and an old racing drone's gyros. It wasn't elegant, but it responded to input and it held weight. The hardest part was removing the damaged crystal. Jack studied it for half an hour before daring to make the first incision. It wasn't fused to her organ tissue, more like a tracking node tied into her bioelectric system. He sterilized a fine-tipped soldering blade, isolated the energy nodes, and made the cut. She screamed. Jack almost dropped the crystal, but managed to extract it without damage. It hit the table with a dull hum, then went dark. He quickly sealed the wound and stabilized her vitals. Then he dropped the crystal into a lead-lined box and sealed it. When he looked up again, she was watching him. "You did it," she whispered. Her voice was steadier now. Jack gave a crooked smile. "Still alive, aren't you?" She looked down, slowly flexed her new hand. Her glowing eyes widened. Then she moved her new leg, wobbly but functional. "You made me..." "Again," she said, wonder in her voice. "Why?" Jack paused. "Because no one else would." Silence stretched between them. Then she said, "My name is Ryluna. Was an engineer on an envoy ship. We were sent to observe, not interfere." Jack raised an eyebrow. Clearly someone disagreed. "They sabotaged the vessel. Those men outside, they work for Interlink. They scavenge from crashed ships, turn us into tech, erase what doesn't fit." "Let me guess," Jack muttered. "No one on Earth knows." Ryluna shook her head. "They hide in shadow. You help me, they hunt you now too." Jack leaned back and laughed once, dry and bitter. "Great. Just what I needed." But then she looked at him. Really looked. "You could have left me." "You didn't," he shrugged. "Not how I was raised." Later that night, Ryluna rested on a padded cot in the sub-basement while Jack rigged up sensors and scanned the horizon for returning vehicles. His mind buzzed. Alien tech, covert ops, interstellar crash survivors, all of it real. And now, one was sleeping 5 feet from him, wearing his custom prosthetics. And yet it wasn't just the wildness of it all that stuck with him. It was the look in her eyes, a mix of awe, confusion, and something deeper. Trust. He returned to the lab and was surprised to see her awake, watching him. "I have a question," she said quietly. "Shoot. You call yourself a mechanic, but your designs, your precision, they are unlike human standards." Jack blinked. "I'm just good with my hands." She tilted her head. "You think you are nothing, but you made me whole again. On my world, that would make you sacred." He laughed. "On this world, it just makes me a target." Ryluna sat up. "Then let us both be targets." Before Jack could answer, the proximity alarm buzzed, faint, far off. He ran to the monitor and pulled up the drone feed. A small convoy of black vans was rolling down the edge of the valley, silent, without headlights. He turned to Ryluna. "They're coming." She stood, unstable but ready. Her new limbs hummed softly with every move. "Then we don't run," she said. "We build." Jack blinked. "What does that mean?" She gave a faint smile. "Your world is about to change. Let's make sure it survives the crash." Echoes of the interface. The compartment hadn't been opened in years. Dust clung to the metal box like dried blood on an old wound. Jack stared at it for a long moment, his hand hovering just above the latch. He never thought he'd use it again. The neural link prototype. Back when he worked for Nyrex Defense, it was supposed to be the future of human-machine integration, a direct connection between brainwaves and hardware. It worked once, and then it nearly killed him. The project was buried, scrubbed from records, but now here he was, dusting it off like some long-forgotten relic from a past life. Ryluna watched from across the room. She hadn't asked what it was. She didn't have to. Her silver eye pulsed, faintly with concern. Jack popped the latches and lifted the lid. Inside was a sleek, polished interface band, a headpiece of microfilament tendrils and a central bioadaptive chip. He turned to her. "You said Interlink scavenges alien tech. If that's true, they'll be tracking residual signals from your systems. Even now," Ryluna nodded slowly. "The crystal you removed, it transmitted my location. If they're coming, they'll bring something that can finish the job. Then we need to do more than hide." Jack placed the interface band on the table. "I can integrate your nervous system into the suit's core matrix, but I'll need a real-time sync. That means I link to it too." "You mean you merge your mind with the system?" she asked, her voice low. Jack gave a half smile. "Not merge. Just temporarily fuse signals, human and alien, mind to machine." Ryluna moved closer. "You're risking your brain." "I know." Her eyes searched his face, and for a moment Jack thought she might object, but then she nodded. "We do it together." The interface room, 2 hours later. The makeshift lab was dark except for the glow of diagnostic monitors and soft flicker from Ryluna's cybernetic veins. Her body was connected to a modified core, salvaged military gear fused with alien biotech Jack had scavenged from her wreck. Jack secured the neural band to his temples. Ryluna lay on the other side of the link, a fiber-optic strand nestled behind her ear. "Ready?" he asked. Ryluna nodded. "Begin." Jack initiated the sync. At first there was silence. Then came the pulse, a burst of static, like a radio struggling to find a signal. Jack winced, his vision blurred. Then the world split. Suddenly he was somewhere else. A void, silent, weightless. Voices echoed, his and hers, merged and overlapping. "What is this?" "A bridge between your thoughts and mine." Images flickered, Ryluna's childhood under twin suns, silver cities gliding on oceans, engineers with skin like living metal. Her first mission to Earth, the betrayal that downed her ship. Then, his memories. The Nyrex labs, the first subject that didn't survive, his resignation. The moment he promised never to touch the neural link again. They saw each other's pain, and something else, a flash, a memory that wasn't his. Ryluna in a crystal chamber, holding a glowing orb, handing it to another alien, whispering something about the core of origins. Jack gasped and yanked the headset off. The lab snapped back into focus. Ryluna was sweating, breathing hard. "What was that?" Jack said, trying to steady himself. "That orb?" Her eyes widened slowly. "You saw it?" "I felt it. Like it wasn't just a memory. It was alive." Ryluna looked down. "That orb is why they hunted us, why they destroyed our vessel." "It wasn't just surveillance, Jack. We were carrying the seed of Source, a remnant of our people's knowledge. We were ordered to protect it." Jack paced. "Then where is it now?" She hesitated. "Before the crash, I hid it." Jack stopped, cold. "Where?" She lifted her hand slowly and pressed it to her chest, just above the core Jack had installed. "Oh, hell," Jack muttered. "It's inside you." She nodded. "Not just in me, merged with me." Before Jack could respond, the motion sensor blared. 3 vehicles, approaching fast. Jack sprinted to the upper level and checked the feed. Black vans, full blackout mode. One of them was towing a large container, some kind of mobile unit. Not soldiers, not government, Interlink. He ran back down. "They're here. We have minutes, maybe less." Ryluna stood slowly, testing the full strength of her limbs for the first time. The synthetic muscles hummed, responding to her will with shocking accuracy. Jack handed her a compact pulse blade and a small jammer device. "They'll try to take you, don't let them." She met his eyes. "And you?" He tapped the neural link device. "If I can't stop them, maybe I can confuse them. I'll loop the sensor feeds and draw them away." Ryluna paused. "We're stronger together." Jack smiled faintly. "Yeah, but they don't know that yet. The siege begins. The vans spread around the perimeter in perfect formation. 4 masked figures advanced on foot, and remained by the mobile unit. Inside the garage, Jack's jammers spun into motion, broadcasting false heat signatures. A flashbang went off outside. The front door blew open. Ryluna waited behind a metal slab, eyes locked, blade in hand. Then came the first intruder. Jack triggered the floor hatch remotely, causing the intruder to fall straight into the sub-basement, where the security drones activated. A scream, then silence. Jack used the moment to fire a pulse blast from upstairs, drawing the others toward him. "Let's dance," he muttered, but it wasn't enough. More came. One carried a sensor device, clearly scanning for alien bioenergy, and it beeped loudly. Ryluna downstairs. Sub-basement 1 of the masked men dropped down through a side vent, bypassing the obvious entry. Ryluna saw him too late. He pointed a paralysis rod and fired. She stumbled, her new leg seizing. Sparks flew from her knee joint. She collapsed, but not before hurling the pulse blade. It struck true, piercing the mask. The man fell backward, dead before he hit the floor. Ryluna crawled to the console, breathing heavily. "Jack," she whispered. "They're inside." Upstairs, Jack heard her voice through the link, and then felt pain, like it was his own. Her neural systems were fully synced now. If she went down, he would feel it all. And suddenly, "Jack," a new voice, echoed through the speakers. "We know what you're hiding." Jack turned to the monitor. One of the figures had connected to his internal feed. "You think this is about a girl. It's not. It's about the seed she carries." Jack's stomach turned. "You connect to her. You inherit her fate." "You are now marked." "Marked for what?" Jack growled. "For erasure." The seed awakens. The room pulsed with light. Not flickering, not mechanical, but alive. The glow from Ryluna's chest shimmered like liquid starlight, casting fractured shadows across the walls. Jack knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he peeled back the synthetic skin around her core. "Ryluna, talk to me," he said, barely audible over the humming resonance growing from inside her body. Her silver eye flickered open, disoriented. "It's waking." "The seed?" Jack asked, already knowing the answer. She nodded faintly. "I didn't know it could do this on its own." A crack split through the armor plating above her chest. Underneath, Jack glimpsed the seed, a crystal no larger than a coin, yet pulsing like a star being born. It wasn't just light. It was projecting patterns, symbols, alien data in motion. "It's broadcasting," Jack realized. "Sending out a signal." Ryluna's hand shot up, gripping his arm. "You need to cut the connection. If Interlink's listening..." Too late. The speakers around the lab screeched. A distorted voice crackled through, twisted with static. "You shouldn't have activated it, mechanic." Jack froze. "Now they're coming. Not just us. Them." Jack's blood ran cold. "Who the hell is them?" But the voice cut out, replaced by silence. And then something worse, a rhythmic, low hum, not from the speakers but from the sky. Ryluna looked up at him. The Wardens, the ones who made the seed. Above Earth, low orbit, a massive structure emerged from Earth's upper atmosphere. It didn't arrive from space. It phased into existence like it had been waiting just outside perception. Its hull shimmered like a veil of black glass, constantly shifting. No sound, no heat, no propulsion, just presence. Inside, tall figures moved, cloaked in swirling robes of light and metal, not organic, but not machine. They were beyond both. One of them turned to a console embedded in its arm. A holographic projection of the seed's activation burst upward, and at its center was Ryluna. Another image formed next to her. Jack. The warden's voice was a whisper through dimensions. The seed has chosen its host, and now it must be judged. Back at the garage, Earth Ryluna struggled to her feet. Her systems were in chaos. Half her limbs flickered with partial failures. The seed wasn't just activating, it was changing her. Jack scanned her vitals. Her nervous system was adapting in real time, rewriting its own architecture to sync. "With the seed's output, you're becoming something else," Jack murmured. "Or I'm being consumed," Ryluna countered. "This was never supposed to happen." Jack reached for his neural link. "Then let me stabilize it. I've interfaced once. I can do it again. If I boost your signal and sync with it, I might be able to buffer the load." "You don't understand," Ryluna said, her voice rising. "The seed is not just knowledge. It's a test, a trial. The ones who created it, they don't just hand it over. They judge those who awaken it." Jack paused. "Judge for what?" Ryluna looked at him, sorrow in her eyes. "For worthiness, for purity, for intent." The lights dimmed. Something had entered the outer perimeter. Jack turned to the screen. What he saw wasn't interlink. It was them. Contact. The figure moved like liquid shadow, humanoid yet unbound by gravity. It passed through the concrete wall like mist, reforming inside the lab. Its face was a mask of shifting patterns, its eyes flickering like stars behind glass. Jack stepped in front of Ryluna. "Stay back!" The being stopped, then spoke, not aloud but directly into their minds. "You are connected to the seed of source. It has scanned you. It has found uncertainty." Jack's mouth went dry. "What does that mean?" "One of you has the capacity for evolution. The other carries the weight of destruction." Ryluna tried to speak, but the entity silenced her with a gesture of light. "You seek to repair, to protect, to rebel, but the seed does not empower rebellion. It requires alignment." "Alignment with what?" Jack asked. "With truth." Suddenly the figure raised a hand, and Ryluna collapsed, seizing violently. "Stop it!" Jack yelled, lunging forward, but the being simply vanished, phased into light and disappeared. Ryluna gasped as she regained control, clutching her chest. "It was probing me, reading my memories." Jack helped her up. "We have to get you out of here now." She nodded weakly. "I know where to go." The coordinates Ryluna fed a new set of star-coded data into the lab's remaining nav array. It pinged a location far from their current region, an underground installation buried beneath the Nevada desert. "I was trained near there," she said. "My people used Earth's forgotten places to hide early contact sites. The seed. It may respond to something hidden there." Jack checked his old rover. "We'll need to move fast. If the wardens have sent one of their own, more could follow." He paused. "And what about Interlink?" Ryluna's gaze hardened. "They won't stop until they control the seed. But they won't understand it. Not like we can." Jack fired. "Up the rover's systems. Then let's make sure we understand it first." On the road, that night, the desert stretched endlessly in every direction. The stars overhead shimmered, quiet and ancient. Inside the rover, Ryluna sat with her eyes closed, interfacing directly with the nav controls. Jack drove, though he knew she was guiding him mentally as much as the map. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She opened one eye. "I don't think I've been okay since I met you," he chuckled. "Welcome to Earth." A pause. Then, "You could have let them take me. It would have been safer." Jack didn't look at her. "I already lost someone once because I played it safe." She glanced at him. "Who?" He exhaled. "Her name was Marin. She was one of the early volunteers for the Neural Link project. Smart, brave. She trusted me to keep her safe inside the interface." He tightened his grip on the wheel. "But I didn't realize the system was unstable. Her brainwaves went into overload. She died inside a dream I built." Ryluna didn't respond for a while. Then she said, "She'd be proud of what you're doing now." Jack looked at her. Would she? Yes, because this time you didn't walk away. The forbidden core. The earth groaned as the ancient structure fully emerged from the sand. Massive stone pillars rose like the ribs of a buried titan, etched with glowing alien script. From the base of the platform, faint pulses of energy arced through the air, connecting with the seed inside Riluna's chest. Her body trembled in sync, her core lighting up like a beacon. Jack stared in disbelief. "You said this place was abandoned." "It was," Riluna whispered, "but the seed remembers." The platform's center spiraled open, revealing a deep descent into darkness. Without a word, Riluna stepped forward. Jack followed, nerves clenched tight. They descended into the forbidden core, a sanctum built by the seed's creators long before humanity ever touched the stars. The heart of the vault. The deeper they went, the more the air felt wrong. No dust, no decay. It was preserved by forces beyond time. At the lowest level, they entered a chamber the size of a cathedral, its walls lined with dormant constructs, part machine, part organism, standing in solemn silence like ancient guardians. A single pedestal pulsed in the center, waiting. The seed in Riluna's chest began to detach. Jack moved to stop it. "Wait!" But she held up a hand. "It knows what it's doing." The seed lifted from her body, hovered toward the pedestal, and slotted itself into a cradle of metal and bone. A pulse surged through the room. Suddenly, the constructs lining the walls began to move. Not aggressively, but with purpose. They turned to face the pair, and a holographic form burst to life. Above the pedestal, it was a warden, but older, more regal than the one Jack had seen before. "You have awakened the final seed." The voice was layered, multiple tones speaking in harmony. "One of you carries creation, the other corruption. Both are necessary, but only one may remain." Riluna stepped forward. "I don't understand. Why me? Why Earth?" "Because your kind touched chaos, but the human showed mercy." The hologram shifted, now showing images from Riluna's past. Her exile, her crash, her slow deterioration. Then Jack taking her in, rebuilding her. Riluna's face hardened. "So I was just a test subject?" The warden's voice echoed. "You are the test. He is the answer." A shocking revelation. A new image bloomed from the seed, not from Riluna's memories, but from Jack's. He stood frozen as he saw it, himself. At 15, in a government facility, he had been part of the early neural link experiments, not as an engineer, but as a test subject. "Marin wasn't the first," Jack whispered. "I was." Riluna turned, stunned. They wiped my memory. I only remember fixing things, tinkering. But I was part of the seed interface before I ever knew what it was." The warden's voice returned. "Your mind accepted it. Your will shaped it. Without your humanity, the seed cannot balance." Jack looked down at his hands. "I was chosen. Back then." Riluna clutched her chest, now empty of the seed, and staggered backward. "So I'm just the carrier," she said, "and you're the chosen one." "No," Jack said firmly. "You brought the seed here. You endured exile, torture, isolation. You earned its trust. But that's not enough," she said, voice cracking. "Is it?" The warden's return. The chamber shook violently. Dust rained from above. The ground itself cracked. From the sky, 2 warden vessels descended toward the vault. "They've come to decide," Jack muttered. "No," the warden voice said. "They've come to take." The constructs along the wall stirred again. This time, their posture was no longer passive. The seed lit up with a final signal, one last choice encoded into its core. "Only one of you may wield it," the voice said. "Only one will survive the final fusion." Jack stepped toward the pedestal. "Then I'll take it." But Riluna blocked his path. "No, I started this. I finish it." Jack's eyes met hers. You said yourself, I was the key. Maybe that's why I found you. No, she whispered. You found me because you still had hope. Then she said something that stopped his breath. And now, I give it back. The decision, the seed began to rise again. Two arcs of light formed, one toward Jack, one toward Ryluna. The construct's eyes glowed. The wardens above sent a cascading wave of energy into the vault. The system was forcing a decision, one bearer, one destiny, one sacrifice. Ryluna looked at Jack with sorrow and fierce determination. I was built to carry this, she said. But you were born to release it, Jack's throat tightened. Don't! She kissed his forehead gently. Then she stepped back and shoved him into the beam. Cliffhanger ending. Part 5. The final signal. Jack floated in silence, suspended in a glowing lattice of light. The seed had merged with his consciousness, not as a weapon, not as a tool, but as a symbiotic memory. A bridge between species, time, and purpose. He saw everything: Ryluna's pain, Earth's fragility, the hidden truth behind the wardens. They weren't saviors or guardians, they were harvesters. Their mission wasn't to protect the seed, it was to control its potential and prevent others from reaching it. The seeds scattered. Across the stars weren't gifts, they were traps set to monitor which species would rebel and which would obey. Jack's mind burned with purpose. No more obedience. The collapse begins. Above the vault, the sky had turned crimson. The two warden vessels hovered like divine executioners, beams of destabilizing energy drilling into the surface. Inside, the vault shook violently. The ancient constructs, designed to protect the seed, awakened in full. Their limbs elongated, forming weapons from their arms and shields from their chests. Ryluna lay on the stone floor, barely conscious. Her frame sparked with overloaded circuits where the seed had once been embedded. Jack turned toward her. He no longer looked like just a mechanic. Energy pulsed beneath his skin. His eyes shone with the seed's light. His voice echoed with layered harmonics when he spoke. Stay down. I'll finish this. She coughed, reaching weakly for him. Jack, don't lose yourself. That's how they win. He nodded, but his face remained resolute. A human against the wardens. Jack walked to the center of the chamber. The ancient construct circled around him, not attacking, guarding. They recognized him now as a true bearer. The warden's voice thundered through the chamber. You are not compatible. Your species is reckless, unpredictable. You are a threat. Jack raised a hand, and the vault's platform lifted him into the sky like an ascendant figure from legend. Wind roared. Light danced. The entire planet seemed to watch. He stared at the warden ships above and said simply, "You should have thought of that before you let humans near a toolbox." Then he unleashed the seed. A blinding signal exploded outward, not of destruction but truth, a pulse of pure, unfiltered memory broadcast in all directions. The final signal, it wasn't just data, it was consciousness. The signal carried every feeling Jack had ever known: grief for Maren, empathy for Ryluna, awe at the unknown, and the fury of a species that refused to be categorized. The wave slammed into the warden ships. One staggered mid-air, its stabilizers failing. The second tried to counter, projecting control fields, but the seed signal adapted, slicing through them like smoke. All across space, other seeds stirred. Planets where other experiments had failed. Others where the wardens had quietly extinguished potential began to react for the first time in centuries. The wardens were no longer the only voice. Ryluna's last stand back on the ground. Ryluna struggled to her feet. Her systems were failing. The seed had rewired her body over years, and its absence left holes in her function. But she still had purpose. She climbed the broken stairs of the vault and emerged into the storm of light and chaos. Jack hovered above the battlefield, the seed's energy nearly too much for one mind to contain. She saw it happening. his humanity beginning to fracture. The very thing that made him special was in danger of being burned away. "Jack!" she screamed through the storm. "Don't forget who you are." He turned to her, face half lit by power, half by fear. "I can't stop it," he said. "I see too much." She stepped forward, pressing a trembling hand against his heart. "Then feel, Jack, don't think, feel." The lesson. The Seed's creators had failed because they relied on calculation. The Wardens failed because they relied on control. But Jack was flawed, messy, emotional, and free. He didn't broadcast a weapon. He broadcast a choice. Across galaxies, that choice resonated. Entire species awakening to the idea that maybe, just maybe, they didn't have to follow a system that had silently shackled them. The Wardens buckled under the weight of 1 billion awakened minds. Their ships shattered, not from force, but from irrelevance. Jack dropped to the ground as the Seed dimmed within him. Epilogue. One spark 3 days later. Earth's skies were calm. The Seed had disassembled itself into 1 billion motes of light, now orbiting the planet like a soft ring. A reminder of what happened and what nearly was. Reluna sat on the edge of Jack's rebuilt workshop, legs swinging over the edge, mechanical. Fingers holding a cup of tea she still didn't fully know how to enjoy. Jack joined her quietly. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know," she replied honestly, "but I feel something, like I'm not just surviving anymore." They sat. In silence, then Jack said, "I rebuilt you once, you know." She looked at him. "You did." He glanced at her shoulder. "But this time, I think you rebuilt me." She smiled, and overhead the final fragments of the Seed shimmered like stars. No longer a weapon, no longer a secret, just a signal, waiting for someone, somewhere, to do the right thing. Final lesson. Being human doesn't mean being perfect. It means choosing what's right, especially when no one else will. The end.